Welcome back to another episode of Coming Out. I'm your host, Gabriel Páez. Today we have candidate for the 24th Congressional District of Florida, Mr. Kendrick Meek. Kendrick, welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you so
welcome,
much.
Really. Welcome the first time.
Good to see you.
Mi casa, su casa. You feel right at home here
yes.
at Community News. We appreciate you coming here with us today and sharing pretty much your platform and what are you going to do when you win. So take us into who Kendrick is first. Let's get to know you real quick. And
for the folks at home, Kendrick Meek, running for Congress here in Florida's 24th Congressional District. I was born and raised in this community. I'm a proud grad of the University of Florida and the University of Miami School of Law. Go Gators and go Canes. And I love this community. And
that must be rough, Florida and UM. I mean, who do you root for when they're both playing?
Thankfully, they're in different conferences.
Right, but when they play against each other,
right,
it's like,
they have some bowl games. It's a house divided. Yeah.
So tell us, why are you running?
Well, because life is fundamentally unaffordable for the people that built this community, including me. I work hard. I'm an attorney. Sometimes I work 60 hours a week, and I still can't afford to make ends meet. And that's the experience for a lot of young people here in South Florida, and seniors too. And of course, working class people are included in that group as well. We have folks that are working very hard, can't afford to live here, can't afford their rent, can't afford their prescriptions, and that has to change. And I think that's why we need new leadership.
New leadership. I love it. Yes, most definitely. I think we've been kind of stagnating, especially here in Miami-Dade County. That's why I've been giving our platforms to so many Democratic candidates, because hopefully we can make the change this year, and this is the time. Like I said earlier in another show, I worked a farm share distributions, and I saw a lot of difficulties that people are experiencing living in their vehicles, one paycheck away from getting evicted. Those are realities that we are experiencing in this community. How can you help?
Well, I think the first thing that we can do is ensure that people can afford their housing. And that means that we need to make sure...
Which is basic.
Which is basic, right? To keep a roof over your head. We need to make sure that people have high-paying jobs, that if they need to be trained for those jobs, that they can get an education. That's why I support free vocational training for folks that want to work with their hands. I don't think a 4-year college degree should be the only path to the middle class. But I also support free community college, so that folks that want to go to Miami College but can't afford to do so right now, including a lot of young people, that they can go and get that training so that they can get a high-paying job that can pay their rent and pay their mortgage. But beyond that, some people can't even afford a down payment on a home. That's why I support free down payment assistance for folks, first-generation and first-time home buyers. There's pending legislation in Congress that I would co-sponsor that would provide $30,000 for first-time home buyers and $60,000 for first-generation home buyers to buy their first home. So that's how we ensure that folks can afford their rent and move from a renter model to a home ownership model where folks can actually buy a home, achieve the American dream, start a family, et cetera.
It's really weird how we've always had that as the American dream, right?
Yeah. And
all of a sudden it just dissipated.
It's slipping away, but we can still, get it back. That's why.
You believe that?
I fundamentally believe that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be running for office. I would have given up, like a lot of people have. I grew up with a lot of folks here in South Florida, people of goodwill, that just decided to move away because our political system is broken and they don't know who or when it's going to be fixed. But I decided to run now because if something doesn't change, again, the folks that build this community are going to have to leave. And we're seeing that on a regular basis. 100,000 people have left Miami-Dade County over the past 5 years alone. We have to reverse that trend. We have to let people know that their political leaders have their back and aren't going to abandon them as soon as they get to office.
I have a lot of friends who have, I'm at the age that their kids have already been out of college for a while, and they've been having difficulties getting a job here, and they're having to move to other states, and the family's first time that one of their kids leaves, and because outside of the state, so for them it's been, not only are they they had them come in back and live with them, and now they're leaving to the state, so that's an empty nester that's leaving the state.
It's emotional. I mean, families are being broken up because of this. I have family members that have considered moving to North Florida just because it's cheaper, or Georgia, Atlanta, other places. And it's not that they want to leave, it's that they can't afford to stay.
And this is not just a talking point, because it really is. Like I tell you, I saw it the other day and I was like, and I just didn't see it just from one or two.
No.
I saw it from several,
across the board.
A lot of these vehicles, and one individual was like, I'm embarrassed to be in the line, and I just felt so bad for them, that they had to be in that position.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you're hungry, you're hungry.
Yeah. And look, people want to work, right?
They do.
They want, basic decency. They want to put a roof over their head. But they just can't find the opportunities. The opportunities just aren't out there right now. But again, I think that's why we need leadership that's going to provide those opportunities, that's going to ensure that people get a good paying job that provides health insurance, and ensure that they don't have to work 2-3 jobs just to afford their rent. With
your leadership, what can we expect for, let's say, in healthcare?
So I support Medicare for all, which would essentially, for the folks at home, that would essentially mean that regardless of whether you have a job or not, regardless of your income, regardless of your background, you can afford to get health insurance. But it's going to take a while to get there in Congress. There's support building, but there isn't enough yet to pass Medicare for all. So I support restoring the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which essentially subsidizes the cost of folks that are on Obamacare. You may know that here in South Florida, there are more ACA enrollees than there are anywhere else in the country,
yes,
including me. I'm on the Affordable Care Act right now, and I pay $440 a month for a basic plan.
How much?
Is $440 a month, which is entirely too much.
Right.
That would essentially, if the subsidies are restored, my premiums would be cut in half, and that would be the case for a lot of folks that are on Obamacare. So
you were impacted by this?
Absolutely. I saw my premiums double, and so did a lot of other folks in South Florida. Firsthand, absolutely. And so people are paying for that. Some people aren't paying at all because they can't afford it. And we talk about the cost of healthcare, and we talk about the monetary cost, but we don't often talk about the human cost. It means that people aren't going to go to the doctor when they're sick. It means that they are going to, when they break, a bone or they fracture something, they're going to stay at home and hope that it heals. But ultimately, that has a huge impact on people. And I don't even like to mention it, but it means that people will die because of this decision that the Republicans have made to cut the Obamacare subsidies and hand a tax break to millionaires and billionaires. That's wrong. And we'll reverse that as soon as I get to office.
And, another thing that really perturbs me here is the elephant in the room, which is immigration. Immigration is a very sore subject. I've been, I'm an advocate for the LGBT community, and I work for the Office of Community Advocacy. So, on my spare time, I do this, but I see it firsthand.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been working TPS.
Okay.
And not only TPS for Venezuelans and Hondurans, but, Haitians, and the biggest diaspora that's already impacting is the Haitian because it already expired.
Yeah.
How do we fix that? Where do we go? What do you see with your leadership? Where would you take us?
So in the immediate term, we need to restore TPS for Haitians, full stop. It ended last Friday. And these folks, they're the backbone of our community. They are our nurses, our caretakers, our doctors, our lawyers. And they're taxpayers too. And as far as I'm concerned, they're Americans. And that's why I would support a pathway to residency and then to citizenship for our Haitian brothers and sisters. But beyond that, we need to make sure that we protect our Venezuelan brothers and sisters that are here on TPS, because believe me, the Trump administration won't stop at Haitians. They're going to go to Venezuelans, they're going to go to Hondurans and El Salvadorians and other protected groups. And then believe me, they will come after Cubans and other immigrant groups. So we need to put the brakes on that immediately. Congress has the power to do that. Right now, there's a bill in the Senate, it's S4814, which would extend TPS to 2029. Senators Ashley Moody and Rick Scott, there are senators here in Florida, they haven't supported that legislation. They need to, and I call on them to do that immediately. And we need to pass that legislation. And then we need to find a more permanent fix for our Venezuelan brothers and sisters, and again, the other protected groups that are on TPS.
So we can expect your leadership to take on those challenges. And really, they're very uncomfortable challenges, but they need to be taken.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, the notion that these people, these folks aren't contributing to our economy is, it's bigoted, and it's not true. They've contributed about $6 billion to the American economy. This is just Haitian TPS holders. We're not talking about Venezuelan TPS holders and other groups. So again, they contribute to our economy. They pay taxes. They're good people. Many of them are my friends. And to just say that we're going to deport them back to a country that the State Department has said themselves is unsafe is wrong.
Which is the biggest irony. They say, oh, it's safe to go back to live, but don't go visit.
Yeah, they tell Americans not to go back, but they're willing to send Haitian folk back, and that's wrong. That's wrong.
And also Venezuela right now is not in the best physical shape or political state, because just because Maduro's gone and we supported Maduro getting arrested doesn't mean that the political climate has changed any. If anything, it's gone worse.
And the economic climate, you still have a lot of folks that are suffering, and it's going to take a while to rebuild in Venezuela.
Oh yeah, right after the 2 earthquakes, for sure.
After the 2 earthquakes and after the years of neglect for the industries that are out there, there just aren't enough jobs to support the people that would have to go home if they decided to deport TPS holders.
I mean, for example, the airport in Maiquetía, La Guaira, has been shut down. And that's the biggest airport in the whole country, right? Probably the only airport that really had that much international travel into it. Now they're using Valencia Airport, which is like 2 hours away from Caracas, but the airport has been updated on the outside, not on the inside. Okay. So infrastructure is probably 1980 infrastructure.
Right.
They're asking individuals for check-in 6 hours ahead of time.
Wow.
So I just don't understand how they can say it's okay to send them back and for Haitians to be sent back, but we won't let our citizens go visit, or we shouldn't.
And the U.S., we have to play a bigger role in the relief effort, not just in Venezuela, but in Haiti and in other areas throughout Latin America, because we're responsible for some of the turmoil that we see in Latin America.
And you're putting in for a job that is responsible for federal things. So
absolutely.
That's why we're
foreign affairs and
that's
international human rights.
That's why we're talking about, it's no longer,
just us.
Right. Locals.
And we're a melting pot. Again, we owe it to our Haitian neighbors and our Venezuelan neighbors, et cetera, to play a role and help instead of hurt.
You see yourself in your first 100 days. What other things do you want to see?
So, of course, again, I want to restore the Obamacare tax credits that were cut by the Republicans. We discussed that. I want to suspend the federal gas tax so that we can lower the price of gas. Suspend it for at least, at a minimum 3 months, at most 6.
Okay.
Gas is at $5 a gallon right now. People can't afford to get to work. And of course, everything, from our groceries to the clothes that we're wearing is transported using fuel, right? And so if we lower the price of gas by suspending the federal gas tax, we lower the price of everything. That's how we make sure people get immediate relief, not just at the pump, but at the grocery store, when they're going to shop for their kids for back to school. So that's a quicker fix to our inflation problem. And then I think the third thing that I would do is ensure that we fully fund the low-income housing tax credit, which would incentivize the private sector to build more affordable housing. Again, we have a housing shortage here in South Florida. We have a housing crisis as far as I'm concerned. And so we need to get more supply on the market ASAP, and the federal government can certainly play a role in that.
I read the other day that the supply for higher higher income residents outweighs
absolutely.
The disparity is so large.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great that we have, wealthy folks moving to South Florida and contributing to our tax base, but at the same time, we need to take care of the folks that have lived and worked here their entire lives. And I don't see that from our local government. They'll approve, a new luxury high-rise in a heartbeat. When it comes to building workforce housing, then it's like, well, not in my backyard. Or it's delayed for months and months and months. That has to change. And so to the extent that, again, the federal government can ensure that the private sector, that there's enough financing out there in the private sector to build affordable housing, we need to make that a priority.
And I'm not a real big supporter of this Live Local Act, that comes in, and I know it's a start.
It's a start.
But really, it's a blanket check for the developers, And
it's not a perfect solution, but in a crisis like this, we, need expedited approvals for some of these projects. And that fortunately, local governments still have some control. It doesn't, give developers everything that they want. It doesn't give the cities everything that they want. It's a compromise at the end of the day. And it's only temporary. Because I think the legislature recognized that, once we get more supply online, prices will come down and we won't need the Live Local Act anymore. So I think it sunsets after 10 years from its initial passing, which was in 2022 or 3. Yeah. And of course, the legislature could go up and say, okay, we're going to end it early because it might not be needed before that 10-year expiration period. So, we needed some innovative solutions, and that was certainly one of them, but it can't be the only one. Again, I think that's why we need to fund the low-income housing tax credit on the federal level.
On the federal level.
Right.
You're in a crowded race.
Yes. 7 folks running.
Yes. Highly, very, influential people of the county. And what sets you apart?
Well, I am the youngest candidate in the race.
Okay.
I offer a fresh perspective, and I think people are excited about that. I think a lot of folks recognize that we can't elect the same leaders over and over again and expect different results. And there are a lot of folks that are that are in the race that have been in office for many, many years and run on their record. And honestly, I look at their record and I say, okay, we're the least affordable housing market in the country. We are at war. We have local governments that are prioritizing the wealthy over the poor. That isn't a good outcome to me. It isn't something that I'd run on, certainly. And so I think people are excited about a new generation of leadership. They want young people to step up to the plate and show that they can lead in our community. But beyond that, I'd say that what separates me from the rest is, I'm not beholden to special interests. There's a lot of money that's being spent in this election. One of my opponents took money from an alligator Alcatraz contractor, but then turns around and says that, he's a supporter of the Haitian community. He's a supporter of immigrant communities. I don't buy it, and neither should the public. We deserve better than that. And again, that's another reason why I'm running.
Transparency is important.
Absolutely.
And your record precedes you. And so, the lies will always catch up. I've always thought, and it shows, because they'll bring it out.
Yeah. A lot of these folks, they haven't been challenged in years. Like they won public office like years ago, but they won re-election without a serious challenger. And so now they're running for Congress. There's a lot more exposure, and thankfully, some of the stuff that they thought wasn't going to be brought to light is actually being brought to light. So absolutely, we just need to hold our elected officials accountable, and we need to make sure that we get money out of politics. And I'll certainly champion that when I get to Congress.
We spoke about education a little earlier, and what other things would you champion in education? Or any other issues that we haven't discussed?
Yeah, so I think that we need to reinstate the public student loan forgiveness program, which essentially allows, let's say you're a public service worker, you work at a nonprofit, you work for the local government, state, federal government, you can get your loans forgiven after 10 years of paying on time. I can tell you...
Did that expire?
So I don't think I think the Trump administration curtailed it.
Okay.
But we need to restore it to its, full glory. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you have a lot of folks that have worked in public service that are still paying their student loans.
Let me tell you, the day I paid my student loans off was the happiest day of my life.
Amen.
I was like, oh my God, thank God I got that off my back.
Right. And, when you try to go out and buy a house, they see your student loans there and suddenly your interest rate goes up.
Right.
The same goes for, when you go to get a car loan or, even when you're buying, home insurance, they want to make sure that you can pay on time. But if you have that on your balance sheet, they're going to charge you more. It's just how they mitigate risk. But the federal government, we can forgive those loans if we wanted to. We could also make sure that we charge no interest on the loans moving forward so people can actually pay it off, because you have folks folks that have a 4 to 6% interest rate. They pay, the minimum payment every month, but somehow their balance keeps going up because the interest is too high. So if we, again, suspend the interest on those loans, we can actually allow people to pay down their debt, and it wouldn't cost the federal government a dime. And mind you, if they save like $300 a month because their interest is suspended, they can spend that $300 in their local economy. They could spend it on their kids. They can put it towards their mortgage, like
meals, anything.
Exactly. That's how you improve people's lives.
And with a tax credit on the gas. And,
amen. I'm telling you, one step at a time.
Right.
Step at a time.
Is there an area that you want to be innovative in, that you see yourself leading the charge? And
so I think, again, it goes back to ushering in a new generation of leadership. I think, I look around and I don't see a lot of young people in elected office here in South Florida. And I think it's because, like me, we have to work hard to pay our rent. We have to work hard to, just make ends meet. And so running for office, right, like I had to take a leave of absence from my job to do this. It costs a lot to do this personally and financially. And young people can't afford that right now. And that's why we see, folks that are in office and they're like 60, 70, 80 plus. And, that's fine. But in some cases it shows. And young people just aren't represented in the halls of power. And that shows too, because our issues just aren't addressed. Again, it all goes back to housing affordability, ensuring that people can afford an education, protecting our environment. That's just not a priority for our elected officials right now because young people aren't engaged. They, often don't vote because they don't have a reason to, and because they don't see themselves represented in the halls of power.
It's interesting because last time I went to Washington, D.C., the majority of the people in there were not like me.
No.
They were white, old, not that I'm not that young, but, they were old, white hair, and it was just like there was no diversity.
No.
And that's become such a bad word, so I don't want to say it too loud. But
Congress unfortunately isn't representative of America, but it should be.
It should be.
It's a house. It should be. Right. It's a people's house.
Right.
And so we have to change that. And again, it means electing the right kind of leadership. I'll tell you, this is the only one of 3 Democratic districts left in Florida. District 24. And it's because the Republicans gerrymandered, the maps. And so
we won't go there, but yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, fair enough. I mean, but, it means that we need really bold Democratic leadership in this district. And again, that's why this election is so important.
And let's take a little personal step back.
Sure.
Your name, Meek, last name.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You come from a line of, what was that like growing up? Being the grandson of
Carrie Meek, so just again,
of the legend,
right?
Because let's put it, she was. Or she is a legend.
It is, yeah, absolutely. So my grandmother, Congresswoman Carrie Meek, she was the first Black elected official to go to Congress from Florida since Reconstruction, which was in 1872, right after the Civil War. Yeah,
amazing,
incredible. And my father, Congressman Kendrick Meek, also served in Congress. And growing up, I mean, it was an incredible experience. I was fortunate enough to not only be here in the district and kind of understand the issues, meet with constituents, et cetera, but I also got to be in Washington. And just following my dad around was something that I wouldn't trade for the world. I think everybody wants to go to work with their dad every day. And unfortunately, I got to have that experience after school. And so, yeah, you're rubbing shoulders with members of Congress, senators, presidents. You get to travel the country, meet people, stand on the picket line with unions. It's indescribable. It taught me so much about what it means to be a public servant.
And there's one thing that you were taught by your grandmother and your dad.
It's that to be a good public servant, you have to love people. Carrie Meek always said that you have to love people, and Carrie Meek loved people. Kendrick Meek, my dad, loved people, and of course, I love people.
He continues to love people because I see him the other day signing
all the time, autographing. Yeah, I'm glad you did. Where'd you see him?
At the Haitian TPS rally.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I was like, There you go. That's how you do it.
That's how you do it. You got to get out there, put in the sweat equity. We've been doing that for the past few weeks.
He sweating?
Oh, yeah. I was too. I was out there. You got to stay hydrated too.
Yes.
But knocking on doors, meeting voters, where they are, like that's what I love doing. It's my favorite part of this campaign, actually. We're doing an RV tour of the district, I should tell you. My grandmother, when she ran in 1979, she had an RV that she took around her district. So, she could meet with folks, again, where they were, in their neighborhoods, at community centers, et cetera. And we're replicating that model now. So actually, there's an RV that says Kendrick Meek for Congress that's rolling around the district.
Awesome.
I hope the folks watching at home will see it very soon. Feel free to knock on the door. Either I'll be in there or Kendrick Sr. will be in there. We're doing a Pound the Pavement tour. So it's been a great experience, and we've connected with a lot of voters, and people are very excited.
Are you expecting that life continues to be as difficult, or do you think that we could really make a difference now and make a change for individuals?
We can absolutely make a difference now, but again, it means that we have to elect the right kind of leadership. Why
are we so afraid to change, though?
That's
why do we? And sorry to interrupt you, but but why in Miami-Dade County do we continue to elect, at least Miami-Dade County, because that's where we're at. I'm only going to focus there, but we focus on, and we're continuing selecting the same people over and over again.
Well, because change is sometimes uncomfortable. You're not sure of what might come or what might happen, but I can tell you the course that we're headed on isn't the right one. Again, housing is becoming more unaffordable. Life here in South Florida is becoming more unaffordable. People can't find a stable job. Again, healthcare is far too expensive. Just to repeat it, we are at war. Like, I think we need to end the war in Iran as soon as possible. But it's going to take bold, effective leadership to do that. Not just here in South Florida, but across the country. And I think, you have a lot of folks, I don't know if you know Maxwell Frost in Orlando.
Of course.
Very young, ran at 25, was elected and has been a great member of Congress for Central Florida. It took him stepping out and putting his neck out and saying, okay, we deserve new leadership. And thankfully, he won that seat. Nobody expected him to. He was the underdog in that race, but he won. The same could be said for a lot of members of Congress across the country. It's going to take young people of goodwill stepping up, challenging the status quo, and winning.
It's like we got to buck the system, because it gets to a point that that's why I enjoy seeing individuals like yourself that gives me hope for the next generation, to know that there's individuals like in your generation willing to take that step, take a leave of absence.
Absolutely.
While you're still paying your health care at $440 a month.
Got to do that too.
So it really is tough. So that's why for this generation, when I get excited when I see individuals, wanting to make that change.
And again, we're doing the right thing. I'll never get tired of that. And I'm willing to make those sacrifices because this community is worth it.
I say it all the time, we could sit here for hours and discussing a lot of issues that we have, but unfortunately we only have 30 minutes. As we come to a close, what message do you leave your constituents and that final push that you're trying to have?
So I'll just say that we're at a critical crossroads. If we don't elect new leadership now, the folks that built this community won't be able to afford to live here anymore. We see that on a daily basis here in South Florida, and we deserve better. We deserve someone who's going to be accountable, that's going to ensure that our constituents can afford to live with dignity, that our seniors can afford to retire with dignity. And I believe that I'm the best candidate in this race because I'm ushering in a new generation of leadership, someone that will deliver on their promises, someone that won't be beholden to special interests, someone that will look the powers that be in the eye and tell them, you will respect our people, and if not, then we'll buck the system. So please vote for me, Kendrick Meek. My punch number is 33 in Miami-Dade County, and on August 18th. And thank you all so very much, and thank you, Gabriel.
It's a pleasure to have you. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you kindly.
And on that note, we'll see you next time.
See ya.